What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So there's been a lot of noise made about who has leverage, Green Bay Packers, New York Jets, who's willing to, blink first in this game of chicken that's being played between Brian Gutekunst and Joe Douglas. And there's a lot of pressure on both sides, right? Obviously, from the media, think about the players and what they're expecting to happen, right? Jordan Love is assuming he's going to be starting in 2023 without having to look over his shoulders at Aaron Rodgers. You're still looking at guys like Aaron Jones and Christian Watson that want to know who's going to be throwing them passes. You look at the New York Jets, we've essentially gone all in. We're looking at a roster that generally only has Zach Wilson and Chris Streveler in the fold right now, and neither one of those guys would excite the fan base. So we don't really have a backup option. There's still some people on the table, but with the roster that we built, especially with some of the moves, they're easily connectable dots. Aaron Rodgers wish list, guys like Alan Lazard coming in, the Odell Beckham Jr. interest. And so it's not hard to tell the New York Jets want Aaron Rodgers. And maybe not necessarily the New York Jets so much as Woody Johnson. I still feel like Derek Carr was who Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas would have preferred to go with. But that's all a moot point. As far as the Green Bay Packers are concerned right now, I feel like there may be some internal pressures that are going to start building and potentially bursting, right? We mentioned the players and kind of their situation and what's going on, but things are going to start getting more and more serious the closer we get to the draft. And then even then, immediately after, and this is from the perspective of what's going to happen with Jordan Love, right? Contractually, he's playing on his fourth year for the upcoming 2023 season, but the Green Bay Packers are going to have to decide what they want to do with his fifth year option. That decision has to be made by May 1st. So that's one of the most important deadlines if we get to the draft and we don't hear any news about what's happening with Aaron Rodgers, because the Green Bay Packers already haven't been able to make any moves in free agency to add to the roster, give Jordan Love some extra weapons, some, extra beef up front on the offensive line, some support on the defensive side. None of that. And generally, Green Bay isn't one that dives heavily into free agency anyways. They prefer to operate on, working with their own free agent pool. But nonetheless, there's a huge transition. You would imagine they would have loved to pour some resources into this team, and that hasn't happened because Aaron Rodgers' significant cap number, also Jordan Love's contract in this fifth-year option. So you take a look at their team, and, when it comes to the weapons, before we dive into Jordan Love's contract situation, they only have 5 wide receivers on the roster right now. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs are going to be the most significant weapons there in that wide receiver room. Neither one of those guys you look at and say, undoubtedly, we feel comfortable with them, right? Romeo Doubs had a case of the drop. Same thing with Christian Watson, but he has the elite athleticism. Romeo Doubs was kind of the clutch guy, consistent chain mover piece. And then you look over at the tight end room, and they have Josiah DeGuara as their leading tight end, who I believe was the Patriots' former fifth-round pick or something like that they traded a late-round pick to get. And nobody's excited about seeing him on the rosters either. So they're going to want to spend their 2023 draft capital to try to make some significant improvements here. Hence why maybe they feel like the New York Jets are lowballing them with whatever potentially has been offered, right? I haven't heard about what an actual potential deal that Joe Douglas has packaged up has looked like. But to get back into the Jordan Love situation and some of that internal pressure, you already have the lack of weapons on the roster, an aging offensive line. You're not going to have Aaron Rodgers savvy to mitigate that anymore. Then you have Jordan Love's contract adding on to the already heavy cap issues that they have to deal with. So here's the situation, right? Jordan Love's fifth-year option. Right now, they're looking at a number that's per over the cap going to be about $20.27 million. Keep in mind, this is fully guaranteed. So, and it's not, something changed in the CBA, if I recall. Fifth-year options are no longer just fully guaranteed for injury. They're just fully guaranteed, period. So $20.27 million will be on the books if they want to exercise the fifth-year option. There's some pros to this. This would be essentially a public vote of confidence for Jordan Love. And it would also buy the Packers an additional year, right? They get 2 seasons to see if Jordan Love can be the next potential great quarterback for the Packers. And it gives Jordan Love some breathing room. He doesn't have to necessarily feel like he's going to be getting traded or moved on from immediately after. And it would also be in the Packers' best interest not to put themselves in a predicament where they have to look at this next draft class. Although, Caleb Williams is expected to come out, there's going to be some big names out there. But they don't want to be put in a situation where they feel like they have to try to find their way into the top 5 picks of the draft in order to get themselves the next quarterback of the future after investing all of this time in Jordan Love. And they've already expressed multiple times they feel like he's a starting quarterback. So not only with moving on from Aaron Rodgers, who had already mentioned on the Pat McAfee show that he wanted to rejoin the team at some point and then went into the retirement and, 90-10, all that good stuff. But there was the sentiment he was willing to go back to the team and finish things out, or he will retire. Either way, there was a situation where he could have played. And so, you move on to Jordan Love maybe prematurely and, we're now here. On the flip side, let's say the Packers decide they want to decline the 5th-year option, right? For one, that means they have to do a long-term extension with Jordan Love if he actually proves that he can be a top-tier starting quarterback, or at least somewhere in the above-average area that the Packers would be okay with, right? They would have to do a long-term extension a year sooner because they declined that 5th-year option. So think the Mekhi Becton situation for us, for example. Also, in the event that maybe they do want an additional year all of a sudden, they're not going to have that 5th-year safety net, right? I already told you guys the number is going to be about $20.27 million. Now, if they want to try to buy themselves an extra year just to make sure that they're comfortable with what he looks like as a player, then they have to go the franchise tag route. And that's not a situation they want to be in, right? You think about some of the most recent issues, Lamar Jackson, guys like Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, how some of those situations have turned out is usually favored the quarterbacks for the most part, and the team has kind of had to, kick rocks and, lose their ego a little bit as they submit to some of these contract negotiations by these quarterbacks. The franchise tag this year was $32.416 million. The transition tag was $29.504 million. So basically, they'll end up having to spend an extra $9 to $12 million to keep him on the roster to buy an additional year. And maybe it won't count. Maybe they get an extension done, over that time, that additional time the franchise tag will buy them. But if not, and he truly has to play out that franchise tag year, now you've kind of played yourself and you've had to, send extra money that maybe you could have used elsewhere to build up your rosters. So I say all that to say I think there's definitely signs that the Packers are kind of bidding against themselves to a certain degree. What may be happening from the New York Jets side is they have an offer on the table, and it's kind of just there. Take it, leave it. There's not really going to be a leave it option from our perspective. I wholly do think that, if we don't get Aaron Rodgers, the offseason is a fail, even though you can go out and get yourselves another quarterback that at least can, probably get you to the playoffs still this year. But the New York Jets seem to be holding the cards, in my opinion. I haven't looked at everything fully yet and checked out all the rumors and everything, but the New York Jets seem to be in a situation where they can kind of stall this out. If we even still get Aaron Rodgers and it's around draft time or after the draft, then, it's an ultimate win for us. We get to push those 2024 resources out the door, and we got to improve and upgrade our roster right away in the 2023 NFL draft class. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Where are you falling at on the spectrum? Not necessarily in terms of the leverage debate, but what do you think they should do with Jordan Love and how that may impact the offer that the New York Jets would give for Aaron Rodgers? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.